Hello, welcome to YeiraLab. I'm Ernesto, and we're going to have a fantastic session today. Since last week, I've been willing to be able to be here with all of you and talk about these modules that we have on our Yeira Markup related to social learning. So before jumping into our live code session and our demo, I want to first start with the presentation that I have here, just to talk about some of the concepts around social learning. So basically, what we're trying to do with Yeira Markup is to change things in a radical way, in the sense that you don't need to rely on external platforms or other systems that are widespread for doing all this communication, all these comments, interaction, reactions, and all that. So let's start then with a very basic understanding of what is a learning experience composed of. And I've mentioned this before probably, and you've seen some of these elements already in our toolkit, in our markup. But we have, in terms of learning experience, we have expositive type of contents, which are videos, texts, blog type of posts, documents that you can download, and so on. Then you have evaluative types of elements that are quizzes, exams, homeworks, or essays that are submitted to the platform and that they get graded at the end. And finally, we have this level of social interaction, which means our learning doesn't occur in the void. And it's not only our students in contact with, with videos and all of these elements, but it means also that we can have contact with other people, other learners, and our professors, our teachers turn into a different way of interacting. They are more seen as facilitators, people who will help you gain access to knowledge and gain access to these experiences, rather than someone that has or is the central hub for all these interactions. So we're going to be focusing on social learning now. And in a traditional setting, all this social learning has to do with interaction between people. So what I call a traditional setting would be to use a social network, use Facebook or use Twitter or WhatsApp to maintain the communication with your team. Or even if you're using some LMS system, it also means that this LMS may have some tools where you can communicate with the instructor, with students, and in a group you can collaborate. But the important thing is you're still thinking about platform. So all these social interactions occur on an external platform, or they occur at the learning platform level. And the problem with this approach is, of course, if you rely on external networks, you're going to have your students leave your content and go elsewhere. So I know a lot of professors who are trying to use Facebook as a teaching channel, let's say, and they're struggling because Facebook is so much more. So if you want to, have people concentrated on a specific topic, it's difficult to do it there. And YouTube is something similar to that. So you can have your students go into a video there, but you have a lot of distractors and you have all these things that will come across your content and your students. So then the typical thing that you will find, or the typical implementation of this model is, I'm a teacher and I'm going to post on the course somewhere during throughout the course. Maybe it's the intro of the course, or maybe it's going to be a forum or a content or blog post. I'm going to put something like this, like, welcome to our course. This is our link to Facebook. This is our link to WhatsApp or to the group. Please send us a message and we can have a conversation there. And in the case of Yeira, some of our clients complain about that. Say, okay, we're using Yeira, but we tend to do a lot of the interaction on WhatsApp. And we feel that we're missing also the connection of the measurement of all these interactions. We're not collecting that from WhatsApp. It's impossible for us to do that. And when we see the outcomes on the platform, what people are doing there, we cannot assess what kind of interactions they had, if it was related or not with the content. So that's why I say that as soon as your students click on those links, this is practically going offline. So you cannot anymore know what's happening with them. So what's happening with Yeira Markup social components? What we're doing is we want to see social interaction as content. So we're inverting completely the model. We are not buying a mobile phone that has an app where I can communicate, but quite on the contrary, the communication should be just a basic layer of interaction. Just as you would go and see a video, you could chat with someone else next to that video, and it shouldn't be, that such a complex thing, and such a big need to have an app and to have a profile and to upload whatever you want to put on your profile. So all that's, kind of a task that's overburdening our students. So typical cases are when you have a community of students, there are children, for instance, or there are people who won't want to open a Facebook account at all, but they want to have these interactions nonetheless. So by approaching this problem as content, it means that we don't even depend specifically on a certain module of the platform. We can put anywhere in our content. If we have a video, we have a quiz, or we have whatever we want, we can paste elsewhere on our content our social interactions. So some of the advantages is you provide your students with these social experiences, so they feel that they're members of a community and they engage with others. They can do that. You have a better control of these social interactions, so you're not just letting go out in the jungle of internet, but you have them on your side and you have them looking into your content, and they'll feel better, or they'll have a better context of why are they doing this chat, or why are they doing, why are they seeing these polls or comments that they're having there. And specifically, you're not leaving your content, you're not going to another side. So once we have explained what is the idea before that, let's go right into the live code session. So I'm going to show you, and if you are missing some past context, I encourage you to have a look at the other episodes. And you'll see on all the episodes we've been talking about this pages document where you have these elements that will build your content. So it's exactly the same as we've done before with texts, with titles, with videos, with layouts, with everything that we've seen before. But in this case, we're going to have very simple modules that will allow you to implement this social learning process. So I already have my browser on this IP, local IP. And I'm going to start showing you one by one this block. So the first element that I can show you here is a note. So it's, as usual, we can put this note inside any level. In this case, I'm putting a block. Within this block, I have a card with a certain margin and padding. And then I have a title, and the title says this is a personal note. And then I open this note element with an ID. The ID is important because this is kind of the bucket where my data is going to be stored. And I can add a description which says this is my note in this case. So let's look at this on Firefox. So this is what it comes. And now you're going to be distracted with all this stuff, but let's try to focus on the first one. So a personal note is nothing but exactly that. If I put a text here, this is my own thinking about the topic. So imagine that you have a presentation, you have some interaction in your content, and then you want to have a space for your student to write down their own insights. So this is what you would use. You would use this personal note. So as soon as I click on this store, then I get this stored. And now I have my learning analytics module configured for social interaction. So you'll see now there's some changes as well. What we're doing now is we're displaying the ID of the element. Remember, this is something that only admins can see. So your students are not going to be seeing all these buttons here. And you'll see that I have one note, and I have a couple of report buttons that I can click on. And I have an extra button here that's delete statements. What this does is it deletes everything on this specific component. It's useful because sometimes you can reuse the content. You want to reuse that for another batch of students, and you have stored there some interactions that you want to erase. And if you just back them up with your reports, then you can just delete them. I'm just going to delete that. And you see that everything reacts in real time. So the important thing about our social modules is that all of them are real-time modules. So you can use them in very creative ways. Okay, so these personal notes have not that much of social interaction, except that you as an admin will be able to peek into these notes and maybe feedback your learning process as well. You can improve your own content depending on what you're finding on these notes. Sometimes it could be important also to tell your users that these notes are going to be subject perhaps to review. So now let's go to social reactions. For lack of a better module name, maybe we're going to change this probably, but now it's called social. And what it does, it will come here and paint this block where you have 4 different types of reactions. One would be, this is helpful, this is interesting, this is something you like, or this is confusing. And you see that the terms here are related to the learning process. It's not, like in going into Facebook, where what happens in Facebook and LinkedIn, you need to send a poll and tell people, if you're agreeing with this or that statement, then click on I like it, or I love it, or star. So you need to translate that somehow for your people. In this case, it's all related to learning. So as soon as I click on one of these blocks, then I'll have my statement coming in here. And the thing with social reactions is that I do not generate a kind of journal of my change of reaction. So the only thing this does is change. So if I just get a quick report, let's have a look at the quick report for this. So if I just change my mind and I click on this, I don't create a new statement. I just change the statement. So every person will have a single statement available for them on the reactions block. And let's just see. I lost track of my download. Hold on a second. Maybe I can come back to that later. But what I wanted to show is that the report is going to change immediately as quick as someone gives a different reaction. This changes right away. So another element that we have, which is slightly different, it's similar in the way that the interaction is clicking on an icon. But in this case, we have stars, and what you're providing is a rating. And the rating element will give you the chance to select from 1 to 5 stars. If you click twice on the first star, that it means it's no reaction at all. And in this way, you can also have a certain content and ask your students to rate it, to give some feedback on that content. So your students are going to be seeing here their own ratings, but you're going to be able to download all of their ratings here. Okay, so let's move on with this other element. This is a poll. And again, the name of the component is poll, and inside you have an ID, and then you just write options. These options are normal text, so you need to provide these keyword options. And inside, you are going to need this dash and then a text that can be anything. In this case, these options are only text. They're not meant to be, or they're not meant to receive additional structure inside. You want to keep them simple. And in this case, when you click on the poll, then you get this bar that gives in real time the reaction or the result of the poll. So you'll notice that as well, something that this has as well is if I have a certain amount of statements or people have already answered the poll, but I have a student that hasn't, he's not going to see the results. So as just as a normal poll, you don't see the results unless you send your own response, and then you will be able to see the whole voting. And the other thing is I don't get to vote twice. So once I submitted my my response, it will stay like that. It doesn't change, as opposed to our reactions here, which can change. So this is a way in which you can conduct a real-time poll inside Yeira. So again, you can put it anywhere in your content. Maybe you're putting a video that's a live broadcast, just as this is, because this is, after all, this is a YouTube video that has an ID. And if you go to past episodes, you'll remember that we can put a video, and it can be a recorded video, or it could be a live session. So imagine that next to this live session, you have your resources or social resources, and you can have a chat, you can have this poll, and at some point you can ask them, okay, let's now go to the poll, and I need everyone to answer this question, and we're going to see this in real time, and we're going to be able to experience immediately what this result is, and the instructor, the professor, is going to be able to also react to that and change maybe his speech depending on the result, and so on. So once again, as an admin, you can come here and delete all statements, and that's going to reset the poll for everyone. Then I have this other block that is a comment block, but this is a kind of an override of the chat box. So you have already a chat here, and I'm just going to compare with the chat block that's below. So you see the only difference is that I have an extra item here. So the chat, as usual, has an ID. In this case, I'm using the ID comments, and below I have the ID chat, ID 01. But I can put any name that I want. And if I add the order top, it means that I want to order all these comments from top to bottom. That means I want to enter them from the top, and I want them to push all the older comments down. And the chat reacts the other way. If you're chatting, usually your history of the chat goes up. So you're inserting your input from below. You don't need to put order bottom. If you want to put that, you can do it just to keep an order, or you keep things inside. But let's see then how this works. If I put my comment here, this is my opinion on that, and so on. I click enter, and then I'm going to see this box come in. It states my name. When I'm working offline or local host, you're going to be working with a test user. It's a kind of dummy user. And then you're going to see the date of the comment, and then you'll see the comment. And you can also send, if you want, we'll figure out a better way, perhaps to have a what you see is what you get interface where you can edit things. This is bold text, because right now what you could do is normal. You can also submit HTML text. So it gets translated right into the comments, and that means you can also insert external images and so on. Right now the interface is not precisely fantastic for that, but we're going to work on it so that you can have, this editor that can be, more rich or richer. And you see that as the comments are piling up, then I start having more and more events here or statements. And let's add another one, and so on. You see this increases. Now, if I go to the chat, this is in a chat what you would say it's maybe something more casual. And you can have this, I'm going to just type some rubbish here. And you see now, in this case, I have a scroll bar. So I can start using the scroll and go up and see the latest elements on my chat. Well, right now something is perhaps broken with an element here. It's got to come out in our next build, perhaps the solution. But usually the chat, what it does is it gives you the last reaction of anyone. And if you type, your latest message will come up here at the bottom. So you see things start communicating really fast. So when you have a disconnection, imagine that for a minute or so, I don't have internet and I'm interacting here. What will happen with your connection here is you're not going to notice that. It's going to be stored locally. And as soon as you regain this internet connection, then you're going to be syncing all your comments in the stream. So that means that the system will work very well, even if you're on an unstable connection, even if you're working on your mobile phone. And of course, this is all mobile compatible. If I change my interface to vertical layout or a portrait, you will see that things accommodate accordingly. Cool. And then this is something we have in the works. This is called notifications. And notifications is again a special setting of the chat element or chat component. And in this case, the only thing we're adding is who's allowed to post or to send a message here. And if I place here allow admin, it means that only admin users are going to be able to post something. So that's why this is a notification box. So we're still fixing some of the layouts. But the idea is that maybe you want to have a bulletin board where you send your students some news, and this is the place where you could do that. You can say, for the next session, we're going to be working in this or that way. Please be in touch. We're going to be launching the next course in a couple of days, or so on. You can put these notifications. This is my notification for general audience of the course, and it'll get posted here. Probably it would work better if you change to the comment format, but you can do it also as a chat, and you'll be stacking up all these interactions. So we are still working on some other ideas. One of them is to thinking about learning processes. One of the things we do to learn is ask questions and collect answers or responses from everyone else. So even though you could use that, you could use the comment also to refer to another people's reply or response. We think another interface that could be useful would be to have questions answered by the community or the instructor or the author of the content. And that's also a very valuable way in which you can interact. So let's play around with a past content and one of these blocks. So I'm going to just pick this chat box from here, maybe the comment box. And I'm going to bring this, I'm going to close now my session here. And let's look at something that we could see here. Let's see this. In the past example, I had questions, and we were talking about different types of questions. So I'm going to do something a little bit crazy here. Why don't we put the chat on the incorrect side of the feedback? So this is a question, true, false. Then imagine that you have, I'm not sure if an instructional designer would think this is the best idea, but this is something that we could do with the toolkit, with the markup system. So instead of just putting this incorrect, this is a true false question, I'm going to paste the chat box here inside of a block, maybe, or maybe not. Just going to put this here. Just like this. There it is. So I'm going to get a feedback, and right after that, I'm going to get a comment box. And maybe in the description, we can say something different, like, why did you think this question? Or the response was false. The response was false. So something fun is going to be happening now, because now we're going to get, extra interaction with people who didn't reply correctly this question. So I'm going to open this on my terminal here and start my browser sync. It's going to be open in my local host, but as I am working with interactions, I will need to have this IP, which is allows me also to test and communicate with people around. So now let's try this out. If I click on false, send answer, then I get the feedback, and then I get this box. And you see now, as I just took the same ID, it's bringing out or bringing up all the past comments that I had. But this is a point where you could have, interesting interactions between people. Like you need an extra feedback. Let's say, why don't you, after you reply to this question falsely or wrongly, why don't you get this extra interaction socially? So you can have comments, you could have anything here. You could have maybe a part of the, a poll, or maybe let me know what's your opinion about this element. And just to do something in addition to that, let's add to this question reaction. So I'm going to put this again. It's as simple as just copying this part, and I don't know, why don't we push this into a column? I'm going to put columns here, and then a column. I don't know if the layout's going to work fantastically, but let's give it a try. And then what I'm going to do is going to select all of this. This is going to come in the first column. So if I do something like this, move it over to the next column, and then I have a second column where I can react to the question with my social component. So let's see what happens now. I have my question. Now you see I have this layout. Maybe not beautiful, but it's doing exactly what I told it to do. So I have a question in the first block. Then I can reply here false, send my answer, and I have this chat box here or comment box. And at the same time, I have the reaction. So what do you think about this question? Was it useful? Was it confusing? And then you can feedback here as well. This is, in my opinion, this is kind of the best thing that we could do with our toolbox. Right now we're at the point where we have enough elements to start, changing these learning experiences from what they were, few months before. I'm not aware of any other tool that allows you to do this. So remember, this is all living in your own content. So this is not our platform with a module for a chat. This is your content talking with your students. And if we go through all the authoring tools that we know, those that work online, there are fantastic tools out there like H5P, like any kind of emails. I can't, I wouldn't have time to describe all of those beautiful online tools and those that work off, a downloadable app, or are used for e-learning everywhere. But none of them have this approach. So I'm sure this is going to be really a great change in the way we conceive interactions. And for me, the beautiful thing is, once you have this interaction going on in the context of your training, then you can forget about it. How many times have you had a course and then you finish the course and you don't know what to do with the group in WhatsApp. Should you recycle that? Should you close the Facebook page that you had to for your group, or should you kick out the students that were there in the first generation and let the second generation go in? What do you do? What's the life cycle of all that? And the fact is that these tools are meant to have permanent engagement. And we don't want that necessarily. We're coming into a course where, as a learner, I go in, I want to interact with the professor, and maybe I'm finishing the course, and I graduate, and I leave. And if maybe we exchange then our phone numbers, or we connect through another platform, it's okay. But in terms of this interaction, it is important now to separate all of those platforms that are going to be, pushing you into being online permanently the whole day in your mobile phone, and they're not exactly aligned with the learning process. So I hope you really like this episode. I was eager to let this out. I've been working for days on, improving some of the things that we saw today, and this is going to keep moving. So for the next sessions, tomorrow we're going to have the Spanish version of this. But I want to have now a bit more of your feedback, and I would love to have, it's in the planning, but I think in January we could start with live sessions or live coding sessions where we can have anyone invited from our clients or friends, and we'll work on a certain problem. So you just come with your ideas. What would you like to see with all these tools? And we'll work together to implement them. So the live coding session is going to change into, kind of a live consulting session where we're going to have as well our markup tool, and we'll work, trying to build your content online, and at the end share the result with our community. So how do we build this? How do we have this type of interaction or this type of learning experience? So I'm sure this is going to be, really interesting for me. This process has been fantastic. It's, it's not being alone coding and looking down at the bottom or hidden in the basement, but it's going out and getting some interaction as well, getting some feedback from you. And this is what I think it should be open innovation. Let things come early, even if there are some glitches somewhere and there's some rough edges. It's okay. I mean, if you release your product and it's 100% excellent, maybe you were too late to release it. So in this case, certainly this is what's happening here. But I feel like really this has the potential that we want to see expressed in all of our platforms and with all of our clients. So thank you again. It's been an exciting session, and we're going to have the holidays. So I'll see you next year. If you still want to be tuning to our channel, I'll be more than happy then to hear your feedback, and maybe get a couple of problems that we could work on. And maybe in January we'll start with this new way of interacting with these new dynamics for our YeiraLab. So thank you again, and Happy New Year, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you.